ReidConnect-Ed podcast, co-hosted by myself, educational therapist Alexis Reid, and my brother, licensed psychologist Dr. Gerald Reid. We're providing you with expert and nuanced discussions on topics relevant to mental health, education, and sport and performance psychology.
Today's topic is about the therapeutic qualities of music, otherwise known as music therapy. Before we introduce our amazing guest, Dr. Joy Allen, the director of the music therapy program at Berklee College of Music, I want to invite you, the listener, to think about the experiences you have had with music in your personal life. Music is woven into the fabric of so much of our lives. So, in which ways have you experienced music in your life? There is such a wide spectrum of experiences, ranging from seeing a local band play cover songs at a local bar or restaurant, all the way to seeing your favorite artist at a large-scale venue, like how we just got to see one of my all-time favorites, Mumford & Sons, play at Fenway Park. What about your grade school's music class introducing you to an instrument like the recorder? Does anyone play the recorder still? And all the way to learning how to play your favorite song on a chosen instrument, or even writing and performing your own original music. And not to mention our good friend DJ Ryan Brown, who's in the Boston area, who really brings a sense of community with his DJing around the area.
For sure.
It's just amazing to think about how it's not just the differences in your taste in musical genres or musicians that varies between person to person. No, it's really that music can be experienced, created, performed, shared, and felt in just so many ways. This is what makes music so incredibly special. A few years ago, when I first started using social media, 2023, I made a post on Instagram inviting the reflection, imagine a life without music. Now think about that for just a moment. What would your life be like without music? No music. It's actually hard to imagine because music, as I mentioned, is woven into the fabric of so much of our lives. It evokes memories, moods, ideas, perspectives, inspiration. It even validates us, but it does so much more. So this leads us right into the topic of today's interview. How do we harness the incredibly powerful experience of music in a way that is therapeutic for individuals?
Now, our guest today, Joy Allen, PhD, MTBC, is an active clinician, researcher, and educator with extensive experience in psychological health, medical musical therapy, and trauma-informed education and supervision. She's sought-after consultant with community and higher education leaders on music therapy and music and health program and curriculum development, including training programs in music and health, targeting musicians, healthcare workers, and community members looking to develop beginning knowledge and skills in research, program development, community engagement, and entrepreneurship with the music and health landscape. She has presented on her work at several peer-reviewed conferences, including regional, national, and international music therapy and music and health-related conferences. In addition to serving as the chair of music therapy, Dr. Allen is the founding director of the Music and Health Institute at Berklee College of Music, where she curates programs and trainings, maintains a repository of music and health-related research, and designed a one-of-a-kind music and health innovation studio to incubate and accelerate the development of music-informed, solution-focused resources for a wide range of healthcare challenges impacting our global communities. Now, as you know, these are two of our favorite topics, mental health and music. So we are so grateful to have you here today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. And thank you, Jerry, for that amazing reminder of how we are all musical beings. And not only is it weaved into the very fabric of our stories and our lives, but it starts with our heartbeat. It's the rhythm of our existence. And if we think about our heartbeat, we know when the rhythm's off, there's something wrong. But we also know that music can help find us that connection, that grounding that we need to. So thank you.
Wow, the parallels between the beating heart and music. What a amazing parallel. I never thought about that.
Yeah. And same thing, even with the beating heart, if you look at, if you're in the hospital, the machines, the ups and downs, that's our life. But the rhythm is there. and we can use that. So,
everything
so
in
beautiful.
Nature too.
Absolutely.
And it starts in the womb, right?
It does. It absolutely does.
At the very beginning of our lives. It's so
absolutely
beautiful.
It does. And, whether it's sometimes it's more in the foreground versus the background, but it's there. It's the one thing that not only impacts every single part of our central nervous system, every part of our brain, but it's always there. Right? It's just there as a companion in our lives. Again, nature, if you listen to birds, that sound, it's music. But yeah.
I love this. I love this. I'm so excited for today. I want to just give you the opportunity to introduce, yourself in terms of how you got into music therapy. Like, what is your path that led you to this direction that maybe some people listening have never even heard of music therapy, or maybe tangentially they've heard of it, but they don't really know what it is or what it means. So yeah, please.
So I think anyone who gets into spaces, I really didn't know what music therapy was, right? But as a kid, my family moved all the time. Every year we were moving, sometimes twice a year. So imagine as a kid, it's new communities, new spaces. And some of the memories I remember, earliest memories, being a 3-year-old and listening to songs in church and feeling connected, even though my grandmother wasn't there, right? And always singing, even though that was just what you did. And listening to my grandma play the piano and the organ. And by the way, she was a horrible singer, but it didn't matter because didn't matter if she was off pitch, but it was that connection being in with her, right? But moving all around, I remember 3rd grade recorder, Jerry, just for you, and being so proud of that recorder. And thankfully, they use more ukuleles and guitars nowadays.
Yeah.
But 4th grade, I wanted to play an instrument, and I chose the clarinet. And I sucked. I thought I was getting sound out of it, but really what I was doing was humming.
Oh,
so for 3 months, I was humming everything, not actually playing the instrument like I thought.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad saying, like, maybe. And I was like, no, because there's one thing about me. I don't take no for an answer. I'm always like, what's the point and why? So I just sat there and practiced because I didn't know anyone. I had nothing to do. I was a latchkey kid. We weren't allowed out of the house, but I had this instrument. So I started playing. And I remember my music teacher being like, are you really practicing? Like, who practices? And I was like, it was something that was mine.
Wow.
It was something that I could take with me.
It was a constant in your life with all the changes.
Yeah. And so, when you're moving all the time and you go to a new school, the one thing that you have is band and choir. It's always a community, right? And so...
And the people could be different, but the music's the same.
Yeah. It was the one thing. And I could go to band, and there was immediately people there that I was sitting next to that you were going to have a conversation with versus trying to find your people. You had your people. And so I played. And then, honestly, one of my first dreams was to be the first female clarinetist of the Philadelphia Orchestra.
Oh, wow.
And realized that I didn't really enjoy performance. It's very subjective. It took away the joy of what music provided me. It took away the comfort, the solace, the angst, like all of that. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something with people. And I happened to be at this community college library and saw this book on music therapy. And I was like, I have no idea what that is.
Just randomly?
Randomly. I kid you not. The most random book in the Reading Community College outside of Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
And I was there because my mom was trying to get her associate's degree. And I was at the library and I was like, this is random. And even more random, the person's name on it was from New Orleans. And I knew my dad was going to be going to New Orleans, and he took me, and I went to Loyola University and to see it and met this incredible human, Darlene Brooks. And I was like, I don't know what music therapy is. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm want to come here.
Wow.
And I got a scholarship to study, and
Just felt right to you.
it's it. And even after I graduated, I have to be honest, I went back and forth between, I'm still not really sure. Like I worked, at the time there weren't, and still to this day, there's not a lot of music therapists in New Orleans. But I remember her telling me, like, you go into a space and you meet them where they are. And your one thing that you have is music. And so you go and you help them find their music if they need to find their music. You ask them about their music. You share and you help them find what's healthy and whole. You always have music. So no matter what, you don't know what you're doing. And I didn't know what I was doing. You do that. And even after I graduated, I was going back and forth between, do I want to go into clinical psychology? I thought long and hard about med school, and it all came back to I wanted to prescribe music. And I was like, well, that's not really a good reason to go to med school. Like that's a really hard, but it came back down to I could just, what you see. I mean, we hear about all the time, and everyone has their moment, whether it's their breakup song, whether it's their first song that they sang to a child, or it was that I still, to this day, the girls and I sometimes leave voice messages of songs we sang together on the way to school. But you have those moments, and when you are able to say, like, yeah, music is there, but then you see it in action. Like when you go to a concert, when you at Mumford & Sons, you can't capture that. But that experience helps you in your own well-being and wholeness and reconnecting with parts of self. So that was a long ramble, but yeah.
No, it's great. It has me thinking about so many different things. And, I was wondering if, as you were talking about playing the clarinet and how it was something that felt so sacred to you that you can bring with you anywhere you ended up, anywhere you landed. Because, sometimes transitions especially are so difficult, especially on young kids who don't feel like you have as much agency, but that's a thing you could do.
It's exactly what you just said, transition. And I talk about all the time, music's a transitional object, whether it's an instrument, whether it's your voice, whether it's a song that is your theme song. It's a transitional object, and that's what makes it special. So Linus, was it Linus with his blankie? But think about, how many times that you've had to go through something, and many times working within oncology and helping people find their theme song to get through the treatment, to reconnect with a sense of purpose through music. I mean, that becomes that. And how many times, we talk about when you're feeling lonely and you can feel connected through a song. So it is. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking, I know you probably have so much to say too, Jerry, but I'm thinking about the emotional regulatory side of it. So my work is all around executive functions and how do we regulate to be able to activate. And, I was imagining you as a little girl humming.
Yes.
And humming is such a regulatory practice.
Yeah.
Right? I think we forget about that. It's just going and
grounding.
Feeling it in your chest and your heart and your body.
The vibrations.
Yeah. And how beautiful is it that you as a young child were able to find the thing that helped you through those transitions.
Pretty organically.
And I think it's a beautiful reminder, especially to parents who might be listening, that sometimes young children can figure it out. Right.
Absolutely.
And sometimes they just need the space. They might need the time. They might need the direction. But those little tiny tweaks in life, I think, are the things that stick with us the longest.
They are. And I would be honest with you. I always kind of laugh because as music therapists, nothing we do is rocket science. It's actually, we're going back to the basics. Right? We're going back to, how did you learn about your world as an infant? Through sound. How did you have a sense of security? Through a caregiver's voice, right? And the rhythm of that goes along with that. How did you learn your academic concepts? You learned your ABCs through songs. You didn't learn it like A, B. It was A, B, C, D, right?
Sing song, right?
Right? Movement. It was all through that. But somehow we got into this thing where, if you weren't going to be the Grammy-winning artist or you weren't going to do this, that, there was no point doing it anymore. And we put it aside or it wasn't good enough. And it's reminding people that it's not about the product. It's about the process, right? And it's not about who cares
Yeah.
what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Be in the moment.
Yeah.
It's the same when you're dancing. Who cares what you look like? Be in
Yeah.
the moment. Belt out the song in the shower, sing in the car. Because even those
Totally.
5 minutes, you have to breathe.
Mm.
What do you have to do to regulate? You need to breathe. You need to have rhythm and pulse. It provides that. So it's something that's just right there.
It's so great. There's Drew Holcomb's wife. I don't know if you know him as a musician. His wife is a singer too. She posted something, and it was like this little button that she had with her kids, and it's literally the 30-second dance party. And I have it in my office now, and it just like gives you a beat, and it's so silly and it's so funny, but it's so beautiful, right? I now have them in every space, right?
I love
just
that.
to like remind us to just let loose.
I always say, what do you need from the music?
Yes.
Do you need to be affirmed? Do you need connection? Do you need physical release?
Oh,
do you
that's
need
great.
focus? Do you need to feel calmer? Like, just ask yourself what you need, because I guarantee you can provide it through that.
So we don't usually do this now.
Yeah.
We usually wait till the end, but you have shared so much.
Sorry.
That has been no. I just want to like highlight all of this because it's so helpful for educators, for other therapists, for caregivers and parents, and for us individually to like think about how something as simple as like breathing, humming, dancing, being able to listen to music, to produce music, to be in a space that music just exists, and just to like feel the resonance of it and how therapeutically beneficial that is, right? I think everybody's looking for these magic solutions, and really they're everywhere once we just slow down enough to pay attention. And I want to highlight too, I love what you shared about you and your daughters, that you share songs through your messages. And that's like our love language, right? We'll share a song with family members or friends. And, I have friends who share with their, their new partners that they're getting to know. They're sharing songs back and forth. And that becomes something that, you remember. Oftentimes our brains remember the hard things the most. But the other thing that we always hold on to are songs.
Yeah.
Right? I bet everybody out there can listen and think about, what's a song that you remember from your childhood? What's a song that you remember from adolescence? What's a song that you remember from like your hardest adult experience?
Yeah.
Like I could listen to a song and it brings me right back to that exact moment I heard it the first time.
And probably with the people you were with.
100%. And the sense of community that it forms, even when you're not with people. One of my favorite movies is Almost Famous. And, when Penny Lane says, sometimes you just have to put on the record.
Yes.
And you can hang out with your friends, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that I think we miss so much of in our busy lives. So I just wanted to highlight all of those things and more that you shared so far. And we're only just the very beginning into this. So I just want to, just to like, I know this is your own personal story and journey, but you just shared so many great points and pieces of advice that I think are so simple, as you say, but also so beneficial. Like, I think we need to make sure that we remember simplicity. Like, you don't need to have something overly sophisticated or expensive or regimented to be helpful. Yeah. Sometimes the simplicity actually is the answer.
Well, it reminds me of an important question that we ask in therapy. Just traditional therapy was like, what's the meaning of this that you're bringing up to me? What's the meaning of this experience? And as you're saying, there's a lot of experiences we have that we may not recognize how important they are or what they're doing for us or how they're providing a need for us. And I think even just asking a person, as you're saying, what do you need? What's the meaning of this? Helps the person to self-reflect on what their needs are. And I mean, we always talk about this on the podcast, like perfectionism and just being busy and distracted prevents us from acknowledging our needs.
Yeah.
And so as you're saying, Alexis, and what you're saying, Joy, is so important, is like just the simple things, just reflect on it, ask us questions, get people to reflect on what this does for them. And they might not even realize it until they're asked a question.
Exactly. It's that opening to music allows us to access, to explore, to create, to connect to ourselves or new ways of being, right? Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. And I also want to highlight that your journey started out in one direction. Like you thought that it was more of the medical model. And then you said, well, maybe this isn't exactly the direction I think we actually would benefit most from. And to integrate the thing that helped you the most with the way you help others and the way you support others is so beautiful too.
Well, thank you. It's so funny because I sit here, my kids will kill me for sharing examples, but I remember in the car a couple years ago, Taylor Swift for the umpteenth million time. It got to the point where it was, how many more All Too Wells do we have to 12-minute versions? That's how we measured how many more hours were left in the trip, right? And which is fine. But I remember her saying, what if I'm not successful? And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, I look at you. And she's like, so what if I'm not successful? And I was like, that's so funny because I don't want you to be like me. And she's like, good, because I don't want to work those hours. But going back to what you were saying, Jerry, it was a reminder too, and Alexis, because if you ask little girl me where I'd be right now, oh no. I mean, I was a first-gen college student. I was, putting,
I hear you.
And even now, I don't know where, I kind of know, but it goes back to even the work I'm doing now at Berklee within the Music and Health Institute. It's about access, making sure that people have tools in their toolbox and that they know, it doesn't matter if you have billions of dollars. It doesn't matter if you've been, raised by the right educators and pedigree. It's what's your music? What is your own music within those spaces? So, yeah.
A friend and colleague asked me yesterday, actually, do you think it's more about the nutrients that are in the soil that you're planted in? Or is it about the other factors that are impacting you environmentally? Like, will you just be resilient where you land? Or do you actually need other aspects of the process to support you? And that's such a deep question,
It
right?
is.
But I also think it goes back to what you're saying. My response was, to my own experience, my own expertise, thinking about it's sometimes both.
It is.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's a little more random where you just expect things to be resilient without the tools.
Exactly.
And I want to go into this a little bit more. Can you share about your program that you've helped to develop, right? It wasn't just something you kind of walked into and took over. You did so much work to build it, to grow it, to allow for it to grow by nurturing it.
Yeah. So before I got into education at Berklee, I worked clinically as a music therapist for many, many years in adolescent mental health. And then I transitioned into medical settings and started a lot of new medical music therapy programs. Did a lot in program development up and down the East Coast and in the South. And a lot with field building. And I share the story sometimes that I would see, well, this works, right? We've got decreased pain perception. That is massive when someone's in pain, and you can decrease the pain perception. So without additional medications, that helps them to not only be able to participate in other therapies in the hospital, physical, occupational speech, but it helps them have that sense of agency, but helps them get discharged faster, right? And I was like, okay, so we have all this great evidence. So it works. So why isn't this everywhere? And then you realize evidence doesn't mean adoption into everywhere, and that you have to have field building, and you have to have education on how are you going about this, how, what tools are you using, what types of music experiences, from songwriting to music and imagery, to a lot with improvising experiences and co-creating with individuals, and then you realize, okay, you've got all this, you got this evidence, you're training people, but then how do you capture so that you can train the next generation, right?
Yeah.
And that becomes really important. And so I got into the education space knowing that I could still do my clinical work, but I could start helping to impart some of that knowledge that we know. Because one of the biggest things, I think we can all agree, music works. We've seen it, right? We hear it. Music works, but it's okay, how? And there's a big gap between research and practice. And then, we have all this evidence. It's amazing, quite frankly, in different areas. And we also know from our own experiences or work that's been taking place in clinical and community-based settings. But we got to put this all together,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so when I had the opportunity to come up to Berklee already had a music therapy program, had been in existence for about 20 years. It was about 20 years. Berklee does have the largest undergraduate music therapy program in the country. And I'll share a little bit about what music therapists train for. They are musicians, right? At the heart, we're musicians. But what we also learn is the therapeutic side. We take courses in psychology and human anatomy and physiology, music core, and then your core music therapy. And the core music therapy is, here's methods and techniques, but here's how you have to adapt that based on the presenting needs of the individuals you're working with, because you're going into their space. So for example, I'll just give you a real quick thing. If I'm really angry and you just put on Pachelbel's Canon, that ain't going to fix the problem. That might actually make it worse,
Right,
and likely will make it worse, right?
I actually felt that in my body as you said that. Yeah.
Right? But I can start where you are musically,
Yeah.
right? And start and bring you to where you would like to be. And that's not just me singing a song to you. It might be starting with perfect example. I'll go back to where we talk about a transitional object. It might be, what song is right there, right now that says this?
Yeah.
Where are you in that music? Are you the drum in this? Are you the melody in this? Are you those words? Are you just, I don't know? Because the other thing is how many times have you been in life and someone's like, how are you feeling?
Good, bad, I don't know.
I have no idea. Is there a word?
Yeah.
Right? But
Yeah,
it can hear it.
Yeah.
But that also, if I flip that around, there's a sense of empathy too for the listener, right? If I hear what that is, if I hear Jerry's song, I can have a sense of empathy because it's activating those regions of our brain. It's not just the motor cortex. It's also impacting those areas of our brain that process emotions. It's helping those areas of the brain with communication and speech, motor skills, all of that. But where was I going with all of this? The whole point being is got into Berklee to not just work within the music therapy education space, to make sure that we continue to advance the work that could be done. So, historically, music therapy got its origins with the military. And what was happening was in World War II, the battlefields and pain. And nurses started realizing if they sing, it helped. Did it take away the pain? No, but it helped take off an edge, but also allowed people to feel safer and to feel they weren't there alone. Because when you're in battlefield, right? So the field got some of its origins in there, as well as within mental health facilities, state facilities that aren't so much around, where music allowed people to have a sense of belonging, but also forget how important it is to have leisure time, like to have and engage in something. And music was something, no matter how severe someone's condition was, how severe, chronic, severe, persistent, something in music allows to regulate, right? And a lot of that, I always look at it as, rhythm is that
calming.
Yeah, that calming force. If you think about melody, it's an analogy for voice and identity, right? And you get into harmony, it's about your relationships and with others. And if sometimes we can listen to Beethoven's Ninth. Sometimes we just need the pulse, right? And depending on where we are. But knowing that information, I know how to enter into a space with you to help you reactivate what you need to get to where you want to go. It's like re-giving you, saying, these are your tools in your toolbox. Yeah.
So do you help people to listen to music in a more intentional way?
Yes, music listening is one thing. Like, it might be anything from, give me songs that the pivotal moments in your life and tell me about the stories behind those. It might be, again, we talk about song discussions, lyric analyses. It might be music and imagery. It might be, looking at those different parts. It might be singing together. It might be moving in place. Like, for example, when I'm working with, older adults who are going through physical rehabilitation, or anyone who's been through physical rehabilitation, let's just all admit it's not fun. It's painful. To no fault of anyone, it's rehabilitation, right? You put that to, if you're just sitting there doing your knee exercises, or anyone who exercises, can you run without music? Maybe. I don't think so. Right? But because the music is entraining into your brain and matching, it's easier to then, it becomes this thing that not only is going to start activating your response. So if you start hearing music, you're going to start tapping your toes. But it blocks the pathway from this, experiencing this, to, okay, this is a little bit more pleasurable. So I can then increase my response and my exercise and my motivation because I'm enjoying it more. So even being able to, with older adults, with I'll use the example with stroke, and they have gross or fine motor movement. If I'm just asking to just cross over my midline, but if I do that, and let's say I use, I don't know, Benny Goodman because I love him, and we start, but it would be something they like, but we can start doing that in time, and there's a drum on one side. You're getting automatic biofeedback, but it becomes something that's not just,
stale.
Yes.
Yeah.
Into something that this is more enjoyable. Then putting in with a group of people, and it's okay. Yeah. I have something to look forward to. I have something that I'm engaging in. That same example in a rehabilitation setting, writing a song. There's nothing worse than when you're going through an injury and you have to participate in therapy when you don't feel like it. It's hard, and it's motivation waxes and wanes. Years ago, I used to run a group, and it's going to sound crazy, that we called it the Breakfast Club, and it was all. Everyone had to be, it was a subacute rehab, generally over 50. They either had knee replacements, hip replacements, some type of surgery, and motivation was tough. Well, we got together at 8 a.m., kid you not, over breakfast. I would have my guitar, just start playing the blues, and we would write. Cool. Now, if I said to them, guess what, we're going to a songwriting group, do you think they would show up? I wouldn't show up. I'm going to be honest. But I'm there with my guitar, and I just start playing. Next thing it'd be like, it's early Friday morning. It's the end of the week. And they would start filling in. But more importantly, they would go into the gym after that, and they would know each other. They would cheer each other on. They would become each other's motivation on the days when they didn't have it. So that simple thing of, and yes, they thought it should be on the radio, but but that simple thing of tapping into something that was there. They could tell their story, but they were, more importantly, the music was the vessel for connecting with a self, what they needed at the time, to get through. So,
and it's always there for them.
It's always
Once you create
there.
something, it's always
there. It's always there. And so many stories too, another use of, that's one way. There's times where we improved, and, I've had cancer patients who have been in severe distress because of body image and how it changes. And, being referred to go see them in the hospital. And I remember this one woman just crying and crying. Her hair, she was so upset about her hair. The response isn't, you'll get over it or it'll grow back. That's a real, it's grief and loss that was probably a culmination of lifelong, right, into her hair. And just sitting there and being able to put and frame improvised music around that till she could let it go and come to a place of, okay. And that's where we talk about that emotional grounding, that being able to regulate, but you have to express it first. And
then she feels seen.
She's seen, she feels heard, but she can let it out versus carrying it in.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just need that safe space, that container, that music to be that container in order to do that. So they're not really concrete examples,
No,
like
it's
I
great.
promised, but, but even to, simple things within, now with working in different areas that I work with, being able to just put together your story, tell your story through music. Or one of the things that I've done with students many times is, what are the sounds of your neighborhood?
That's beautiful.
And what would they like them to be? Because different neighborhoods are different. And then when you hear, you get a different sense of empathy within that.
That's interesting.
I mean, even if you go, 2 weeks ago, I was down in Roxbury, and at the sirens, the loudness, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's overstimulating to me.
Yeah.
That's people's reality versus mine, where it's quiet and the birds are chirping. But how can we then give, okay, this is what it is, but how can we help you create what you would like? So at night when you're stressed and anxious, you have your own sounds and your own music that you've created to transform that to what it is that you need.
That's so great, because it helps people to realize how things affect them too. Because when something's so normalized, it's like you don't even realize, oh, that's overstimulating until you reflect on it.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I think since I've been in Boston, mostly lived near a highway or a train. And when I listen to those noises, I now hear like the waves.
Yes.
Instead of it being
it's
like
a perfect
abrasive,
example. And it's
Reinterpret it.
It's literally, because it's and literally and then metaphorically, it's giving you back your sense of control.
Right.
I can't control that. And you ain't getting rid of the trains, but I can have that agency, and what can I do to serve what it is that I need to function in this space.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a cognitive behavioral therapist, but I integrate a lot of the, we can change the narrative around this. We can't change the situation, but we can change the way we perceive it. We can change the way we experience it. And I think music is such a good way of doing it. We had Steve Gross from the Life is Good Playmakers.
Oh, yeah.
And he was talking about how, his son has a different type of music that he's into.
Yeah.
And instead of saying immediately like, oh, I don't like this because this is what I typically like, he joins him to listen and ask questions of like, well, what do you like about this music?
And
you join their experience.
Perfect example.
Isn't it great?
I tell parents all the time.
Yeah.
Instead of like, oh my God, you're not listening to da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, yeah.
Take a breath.
Right.
And say,
why do you like this?
And
how does it connect to your life?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you like? Tell me what you like about this. Because I remember even my daughter, I remember what song it was, but I'm like, this has nothing to do with her life.
Yeah.
Like, what is this about? And she's like, the beat. And I was like, she's like, Mom, not everything is so deep. And I'm like, oh yeah. Because I'm like listening to these lyrics, and she's like, I'm not listening to that. I like the beat. You hear the beat drop, and I'm listening to these, and I'm like, oh. But it's what you just said, like
totally.
But here's a moment of connection, and a moment where it's not do this, do that, or you're doing this wrong, or you're doing that wrong, of just, oh, thanks.
And it gets back,
thanks for sharing.
It completely comes full circle back to needs.
Yes,
so
absolutely. What do you need from the music?
Beat? Like, why is that beat helping you? And Alexis and Joy, you were both saying how like the dance movement of music has become so EDM music, or whatever that type of music is so popular, partly because you want to share your hypothesis.
Oh, I have lots of hypotheses, but I'll start by saying we know there's a mental health crisis. We know the anxiety levels and collective anxiety is through the roof, and rhythm is grounding. And the EDM...
there's not really an alternative to that too, right? If you think about it, like in like day-to-day life, there's not a lot of like rhythmic music that we're exposed to.
Well, it's just like what you said.
Like
where's the music
void
on the street?
Right? Well, I was thinking unless you're in New Orleans, there's like a drum line.
There is. Well, even in New Orleans, you've got street musicians everywhere.
Yeah.
And you've got, people with bottle caps on their shoes making rhythms. You have music is celebrated part of the culture. Is there problems in New Orleans? Oh my gosh, immense. However, that sense of community is through the music. And they learn, even through Katrina, we're a music city. We bring the music back. Everyone's, playing in the brass band. They're in the Mardi Gras parades. The marching bands are huge. It's not about, oh my gosh, you were the top performer and you're this. It's, I get to be in community to do this.
Can I ask you a question about that environment too? I'm curious because like sometimes I think you can go to listen to music. You're like, oh, that's just like a band playing. You're not really feeling it. You're not really experiencing it. Is it different in that type of environment where like you're actually like so like it's so part of the culture and you're like you feel fully present with it? Because you can listen to music and not be present with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it depends, right? There's always going to be something that you don't like.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Yeah. Like you don't have to like everything, you know, I think when you hear rhythm, you're going to move.
Yeah.
Right? It's like if it's overpowering, it's different, but you learn the ways and you learn the rhythms and you learn the rhythms of your own flow in life. But you also gravitate to what makes sense for you. I mean, it's not so much that there's not silence either. Silence is important, but I do think that there's, we know at certain times, I mean, I know what song I need at a certain time. I know it. Yeah. And I know sometimes, like the other day, I just had on like new track list on Apple, and this song "Heaven" came up. I think it's by Miles Smith, and there's something in those lyrics, and I was like, I needed that to. I just kept listening to it because it's what I needed. And you look at the lyrics, and you're like, okay, that's where I am right now, and that's okay. But I think, one of the things that I think within, I'll bring it back to the EDM and then collective anxiety is it's grounding. And I shared earlier, you hear people say it's the one time where they feel reconnected to their bodies.
Yeah, their bodies. That's such an important point, their bodies. Why do you think that is? Like they're so disconnected from their bodies?
I think where we get to the point where we've become at times task-oriented, robotic, do this, do that, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that, you feel. But I also think teens we've all had our teen years, and it's a sense of trying to figure out the world and who we are as people. Yeah. And that's a lot. And we didn't have social media when I was growing up. We do now. And it's who am I? This allows me to reground. Doesn't have the answers, but it allows me to feel grounded when all of this stuff, I don't know where I'm going to go to school. I don't know if I'm going to get good enough grades. I don't know if I have friends. I don't know if I'm going to be bullied on, whatever it is.
What's happening on the screen.
I can reconnect with my body when we feel so disconnected. It's that sense. It's the same as, a child when they feel the heartbeat next to their mom.
That's interesting.
It's that.
It's
the same
primal.
thing. Yeah, it is. I mean, I really think it is. And I think so many times it's the same when someone holds your hand. Sometimes you need that touch to remind. It's connects you literally to your body because we get so in our heads and so out of it. But EDM, but I also think it allows them to be.
Not think.
Yeah. You're just in your bodies again, in your moment. All the stress and pressures are gone. I mean, I've gone to clubs, not to the extent that they do, but, and I get it. I totally get it. And it's nice when you can shut off the world and just be in community. If you watch the videos, the rhythm, they're in rhythm together.
All of them,
It's beautiful.
It's so interesting because I go to a lot of live concerts. That's like my outlet. It's the thing I love to do the most for, I think, that reason. And I've been reflecting on this with a lot of therapist friends that, we like to join community in a place where our minds can kind of just disconnect and we can just feel the experience.
Yes.
Right. And there's this idea, and I think it goes back to what you were talking about too, with this mental health crises that we're experiencing as not just an American society, I think a global phenomenon that we're experiencing where there's a lack of connection, that everybody is, we've said this a million times on the podcast, that we're connected through all this digital technology, but we're really so disconnected. And coming together with live music or digital music in a shared live space is I think so important. And I've seen this progression of, young people coming to concerts where they're just kind of like standing there and not sure how to engage, what to do. And now all of a sudden, or they're talking too much. That's a whole nother story. Our producer Mike and I want to do a whole PSA.
How about the whole cell phones? So
oh my gosh, cell phones. Yeah, I'm guilty of that sometimes too. But the over talking at the concert is a whole other experience. My gosh. But I think it's so interesting. I've been noticing this progression of, showing up and just being there. And now all of a sudden I see these young people jumping and dancing and moshing and feeling. And like, it's been this huge curve where they're like overly inhibited and now they're just releasing. And I think that's like indicative of what our society needs more of, not to just like, trauma dump our emotions on every experience we have, but to just feel and connect with what we're experiencing in this present moment in a shared space.
And it's all natural too.
And it's natural. And it's through music,
natural.
This beat that goes back to, like you were saying, the very first moment that we become life forms, right? Because we hear the beat of our mother's heart as we're in gestation and growing as newborns. It's amazing.
Yeah. And it's even going back to music in the schools, even in preschool. That was the beauty of it. You got to bop on the floor with kids. You got to sing, and it was no one cared if you were in tune. No one cared if you looked funny. But we became these things. But it's amazing. And it's also, I will say, one of the other things that we forget sometimes in parts of like reclaiming parts of ourselves is reclaim those parts of music. For you love to go to concerts. That's important to you. You're playing. I mean, you are playing guitar and you're singing. And just because you're not in high school or elementary school doesn't mean you can't go pick up an instrument.
Totally.
And we even know individuals with dementia can still learn how to play an instrument.
Get out, really?
Yes.
I was just going to say, can you share?
A foreign language, right?
Yeah.
What?
Yes, because that part doesn't leave. Yeah. It's amazing. And again, the thing with music and you can Google your brain on music and see how it literally lights up every part. And there's this concept of neuroplasticity. When you hit something, when the music helps you find a different way around it.
Totally.
And within neuroplasticity in the brain, that's why we can use it within TBI and stroke and Parkinson's, because of that neuroplasticity. It helps refire neurons. Yes. And so you can still play and give yourself permission that you can just do this. Even, I'm using my daughter again. She took my guitar and I was like, you're not playing my guitar. Like, not that one. Not that one.
Just not
so
that
I
one.
got her own guitar and I'm like, so you want me to get you lessons? Da, 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 da. And she's like, could you leave me alone? I will teach myself. And you don't have to make everything like I have to do it this way, that way. She taught herself guitar.
Cool.
Nice.
You know why she uses it? When she's really stressed.
Yeah.
I can hear her singing and playing and I just let it go. We don't have to talk about it. We don't have to. But, as one of the things I wish we would get a little bit back into is, there used to be community bands.
Yeah.
There used to be community choirs.
Yeah.
There used to be, if you're want to go hang with other musicians, there's very little space for that because it becomes a competition. Right?
Yeah.
And even here in Boston, sorry, Bostonians, I used to be in a wind ensemble. If I want to be in one here, I have to do 4 auditions. I'm like, listen, I just want to play. I don't need to practice 8 hours a day. It's about, being in community and playing.
So true.
And feeling, right? But, we don't get away from that and just, allow yourself to play. You want to sing. If you want to learn the guitar, learn the guitar. But that's what's going to help navigate life. And we already know, creative aging wise, learning an instrument is one of the best things that you can do for yourself.
For aging?
Yeah. Yeah. Even when you're 20 years old, aging makes a difference.
Can
learning
we
an instrument makes a difference.
Can we permanently delete the phrase, you can't teach an old dog new tricks?
Oh, yeah.
It just should not exist.
No. I mean, it's just a different way of playing. So
Totally.
listen,
Totally.
I we talk about music therapists have to learn guitar, piano, percussion, and that.
Mm.
Do you think I learned on Bach and Chopin?
Yeah.
No. I learned boom chuck chucks. I can play functional. I can play the chords to a song, and I would love it.
Yeah.
Do I want to be on stage? No.
Right.
But I love it.
Yeah.
And it's, some nights I just play for myself, and that's okay. And it's there. It's a constant. And, for people out, who are listening, think about reconnecting with your musical self.
Yeah.
Just go to karaoke. I love, there's a group in New York City, and they come to Boston sometimes. And there's more, I see a little bit more pop-ups here in Boston. They're called Gaia Music Collective, and they do these one-day choirs.
Cool.
And they're so awesome because a group of like 200 people come into this space. They get the music ahead of time. It doesn't matter if you know, 4-part harmony. They sing. But that collective experience for 2 hours being in a space with strangers that you now become connected to is so healing.
We were so fortunate to go see John Baptiste with the Pops, and it was so beautiful because he did just that. And I the week later, I'm just so blessed. It's not even funny. I got to see Jacob Collier do the same thing, but they just brought the audience into the experience, right? It wasn't just them on stage performing. They're like, how do we bring everybody together? Jacob Collier did the coolest thing. He started doing bird sounds, and then he started to have, different sides of the space, play or sing or create a different sound. And we're not musicians, right? We were there to experience a concert. And the resonance that I felt in my body from the energy that was coming from everybody participating, even if you aren't a musician, was so beautiful. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about, folks, especially who have experienced trauma, who might not always feel comfortable in bigger spaces with a lot of people. Yeah. But if you can't co-regulate with others, it's almost like you can co-regulate with music.
You can. It is your literal companion.
Yeah.
Literal companion.
Yeah.
And it's oftentimes one of those first things, because again, think of it as a transitional object where, I might not know you and I'm not ready for those experiences, but I can start here and I can start with, being in a space with music and just using it the way that I need it to be used. Yeah.
So absolutely. As we're recording this, we are a week out from, shall we call Noah Kahn Fest at Fenway Park? Something like that. There's he's playing 4 or 5 shows that are all sold out. Bless him. He's doing great work. But it's interesting because I'm constantly thinking about, well, why is this a movement, right? He has talent. His songs are catchy and so many people really love his music. I think we all can listen to it and bop along, even if you're not really into it. But I've heard from a lot of young people that, his music is sad. He'll say it himself. He's like, I think his new album, he
tells
said,
a story.
Yeah, he's like, I think I wrote this during the winter when I was kind of depressed. So don't get excited about the summer. Because you're going to have, a depressing summer if you're listening to my music. But it's interesting because a lot of young people that we've talked to and we work with, they resonate with the music, especially because they feel seen. They feel like their experience is showcased and, told in the stories that Noah Kahn shares in his lyrics and music about their lives too. And again, going back to this idea of wanting to feel a shared experience and collective community, I think there's something there that there's so many people that are feeling the sadness, the heaviness of the moment, that the music, it maybe isn't healing in that it's lifting up their spirits, but it's healing in that they feel
it's allowing them to
it.
access. Access, sometimes explore, it validates. I mean, and it's many things all of us did. It's we're putting words to it now, right?
Yeah.
I can tell you how many times, and you all could think about to your own experiences, where again, there was that one artist, that one song that you related to. And so often we don't know how to say what we want to say. We don't know what we're experiencing. And even, with Noah Kahn, Noah Kahn Fest, I love saying that. It's
we're about to experience it here in New England and Boston.
This is this. But, and on the flip side, it lets them feel joy too. I mean, I think about, Pink Pony Club. I mean, I just love dancing, and I love, singing at the top of my lungs. And people know different, why she wrote it. But you also have 4-year-olds who are singing it and they have their own meaning to it. And that's okay. It's okay, because look at that joy. Look at that expression. Look at that, that moment of sheer connected to self or others, right?
There's when I was in graduate school, I connected really deeply with a psychologist, Jerome Kagan, and his work. A lot of people know about his temperament research, but he did so much research and writing on emotion. And there's a book called What is Emotion that I constantly reference, because he talks about how in the English language, there aren't really too many different gradations of emotion that we can express in words. Right? We can't actually articulate how we're feeling. When you were talking before, I'm like, I think I want to just answer the question, how are you, with like a song title or lyric from now on. Because I think, it is really difficult to express how we're feeling and what we need. And music is almost like, again, you refer to the toolbox, but it's almost like you're unlocking something that might have been hidden or unknown.
It is. It's going right back to what's been part of you. And absolutely. And I love how you just put that in such a beautiful way. And it's amazing to me that, whether it's, the emotions, whether it's the, memories, whether it's, helping with anxiety or pain, or whether it's giving us a sense of hope, which many times we need, it's there. It's there. And it's different ways to unlock that and use it.
So let's talk about songwriting, because I think that there is a hesitation for a lot of people to try this idea of songwriting. I imagine, I don't know too much about music therapy. I imagine it's a big part of it is, as you're saying, Lex, like finding how to put the experiences or feelings or thoughts into words. At least I'm speaking from my experience, but like it requires a tremendous amount of openness and lack of self-consciousness. And so can you speak to that experience of helping people through the practice of music therapy to engage in it? Because, I try not to think at all about the fact that I'm like making music and people are perceiving it. I just don't go down the rabbit hole of becoming self-conscious, because it's not the point of why I do it in the first place. And it's kind of a black hole of becoming self-conscious about it. So.
Oh, absolutely. So go about it in different ways. Sometimes it's, it's organic. I will say that. I've never gone in and it's like, we're going to do something this way. It's that, big belief that we meet people where they are in the moment and we go from there. So sometimes it's starting with, what does it sound like? What does today sound like? Does it sound more like this, and giving examples of chord structures? Does it sound more like this? But within that very thing, you're giving them a chance to make a decision. Because how many times when you're in crises, whether it's medical, mental health, you don't have a choice.
Good point.
You don't have a choice, right?
No.
And so even that simple, would you like it like this or like this? Or if it's within a group, do we see it? How do we compromise? Because we can use that same concept with impulse control, learning to listen to others, compromise. But, that same concept, you want it to sound like this? Do we want it to sound like this? Or it might be just starting with playing the blues. But many times when I have used songwriting, it's someone starts sharing something that comes and I'm like, does it sound kind of like this? Or this reminds me of this. Can we start with that?
Nice. And then you kind of riff off of each other.
Yeah, riff off, whether it's within words or sounds. And sometimes it's, everything they've said, they takes off, right? Other times it's holding the space, right? Because the song's not finished yet. Yeah.
Well, so much of life is really, not really conscious, you know, like that stuff is deep inside people to like really say exactly what they mean. I always think people, I have a song I wrote called Turn the Page, and the lyric is like, we don't really say what we really mean half the time. It comes out metaphorically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, because in some ways too, if we think about songs and songwriting and back to the transitional object, it's a sense of safety. I don't have to own that. because maybe that's not safe for me, or I don't feel safe enough to own that feeling right now, or
Good
that
point.
experience. But
Put it there.
Put it in third person, and it becomes, you could talk about their experience and then say, what do I want to take about that with me today?
So do you sometimes change the language of the lyrics to like I versus he or she or they, or like to change how personal it feels, or how like sensitive or vulnerable they are to, like, as you're saying, like if
I let them do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So it might be, do we want the I, or do we want a we, or is it or they?
Yeah.
Right?
It's a good prompt.
Because it's a lot of co-collaboration within that.
Because you ever hear people say, like, when they reflect on, like, I'm sorry, this is like a tangent, but like, you ever see an athlete being interviewed and they're like, how did you do that? And the athlete will say, you just have to go out and you have to have a mindset like this. But they're not talking about themselves. They're not like, oh, I felt vulnerable and I had to like change my mindset. They'll say, you just have to go do this.
Yes.
And it's an interesting use of language.
Yes.
That they're not saying what their experience was. They're saying as if they're like giving a lecture about how to do it.
No, it's that honoring the way they say it, because I always look at it as it's given me insight to where they are. If they're saying that that's how they were, that's how they, and I might turn around and say, where are you in this? That's going to tell me insight. But a big belief that, in my own practice within music therapy is that the music leads them where they need, but it also allows them to be where they are right now, right? And I have a beautiful case study that, if I can, I'll share, if that's okay with you, that kind of captures it. And this particular case study is one of the hardest things I wrote, but it kind of captures what you were saying in terms of, I wanted the client to be here, right? But that's not where the client was. And I think those very things about that music being that container, that safety, that transitional object, whatever it needs to be, allows people, and it gives insight. So as much as I might want, my child or my loved one or my friends here, if they're here, I can help try to guide, but ultimately all healing comes from within.
True.
So they have to be presented the tools in different ways and take what they need.
You're so mindful of that when you're working with people, Much like traditional therapy, too.
It is,
You're just, what kind of language are they using? What do they bring up? What do they not bring up?
Yeah. That experience, reflect, transform over and over. Yeah.
And I love what you said, too, that, this song doesn't need to be over, right? That doesn't have to be the ending.
No.
It's just maybe is the beginning, or getting them to the present moment.
Yes.
That they can see that there's more of a story to tell.
There is. And there's, and it can be used on the, macro, micro, and even, think about, there's things in life that aren't going to be fixed, right? Quick fix. But, even if I'm here right now and I need to make it through the day, put a song that captures where you are right now. Put a couple more in there to lead to where you need to be for that moment. That doesn't mean that it fixed it. It gave you a tool to get through a day.
Right.
And sometimes we need that tool.
The other thing that I keep reminding, especially my clients of, is like, emotions aren't to be pushed away and pushed aside. They are something to be felt. It's part of our human experience, even when it's uncomfortable.
That's why you love live music.
I think so, right? Because you can just feel it. Like, sometimes you don't have control over it. But it's so important to feel it. I think we're living in a society where everybody expects things to just be great, because, to be honest, especially here in the US, there has been like a upward progression in so many aspects of our world and our life for a pretty long time. There's greater access to technology. And, I think it's important to remember that, like, we need to feel. Sometimes we need to feel the heaviness of a moment. We need to just be in it. And I think music is a really good opportunity to allow for you to be in it, but maybe just for a shorter period of time. We've been watching Shrinking on Apple TV, and Harrison Ford's character is a therapist, and I can't remember the amount of time, but he says, just listen to music. You're only allowed to listen to it for 7 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever. And you're allowed to cry it out and feel all the feels.
Yes.
And then after that time, you need to just stop and check in and see what you need.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful thing. And it's such a
true.
great
like,
metric.
Listen, I tell everyone, for jazz fans, Dave Brubeck, take 5.
Mm-hmm.
Take 5. Take 5 minutes a day and use music, whether it's you're singing, whether it's you're breathing to the music, whether you're moving to the music, whether you're playing music. Take 5. Just take 5 minutes in that moment where you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Take 5.
I took some time and I wrote down a few aspects of like my day that I know will help me to show up the best I can. And obviously every day is not going to all be all of those things or at the highest point or the greatest expression of them. But one of them is, move your body, dance around.
Yes.
Right. And whatever that looks like, even if it's for one song, but I can distinctly feel a difference in my body and my day when I do or don't do that, when I do or don't listen to music.
Yeah.
And, maybe that's just me because I gravitate towards it and I feel it so deeply. But I think everybody can benefit from, whether it's just rhythm or beat or song or an album. I'm a big fan.
Anthem, anything.
Right. Yeah. I have a big record collection because I'm trying to really fully experience music the way the artist intended it from the beginning to the end. Because I think that's so important. I think we've lost that in our digital
Instagram
society.
Reel.
Yeah, or in small chunks, which there's value to that in different ways.
The art of how the album is put together.
Absolutely.
Tells the story.
It's so beautiful. And it brings me out of my experience to be able to experience somebody else's. And it might not be, and this is the other part I love about music and songwriting, even though I'm not a songwriter myself, that somebody might write a song based on their experience, but you don't have to experience that same thing to appreciate the song.
No,
which is so cool.
Right.
Exactly.
So I think songwriting does something magical too, that it slows you down, as you're saying, to like it's kind of like therapy. I know a lot of musicians say that, like I think Lainey Wilson said, she's like, this is basically my therapy because it helps me to like slow down and access and understand myself, because it's like when you go to therapy, people really appreciate the sacredness of like, we're going to sit there for 45 minutes. I'm going to make sure we take our time. I'm not going to rush you. I'm going to be reflective with you, create that space for you to process. Is like, writing a song is like that, because you're like, oh, it's kind of like this, but it's not totally like that. When people talk, when I train therapists at BU and I'm like trying to teach them how to be therapists, I'm like, when their eyes go up, don't say a word, because they're like, stuff's going on in their head. Don't interrupt that. And if they say something, say more about what you meant by that. Like it takes time. It's a process. And I think that is so valuable. So valuable.
Yeah. And it's, so the music therapist in me, when you're talking about that, and I'm like, yes, we could do songwriting as a cognitive exercise. We can do it as being, going back into the emotional domain, spiritual, social domains. We can even get into the physical domain if we're doing, instrumental. And so I'm sitting there like, here's all the different ways. But I only bring that up to say is that what a beautiful gift all of us have in the sense of music. Yeah.
The same goes for learning,
exactly.
Certain beats, certain progressions.
Yes, it's like everything. And all of it. All of the above. D. Answer D.
I love it when that's the answer. Okay, I have a serious question logistically, because I know there might be some people out there that are like, oh, this is something I really would want to do, musical therapy. Sure. I love music. I love helping people. How can I integrate and put that together? So logistically, I know your path and journey is to be on the clinical side and then integrate music. That was kind of your path to getting into music therapy. But do you have to be a clinical psychologist or counselor to be a music therapist? Or do you have to be an actual musician to practice music therapy?
So what you're picking up on is, I look at it as the bigger umbrella of music and health, right? And when we're thinking about music and health, I always use the analogy. If I have a paper cut, I might put a Band-Aid on it. I probably put like a paper towel. If it's a little deeper cut, some antiseptic. I might go to the doctor. But if I've severed my finger, I need a surgeon. So when I think about the use of music for health-related outcomes, I think about that kind of same continuum from therapeutic to therapy. So I think about how all of us use music in our everyday lives, and we have through the, again, beginning of our lives. And I think about those moments when we just need therapeutic versus when we might really need someone with more expertise on how to use the music because of whatever crisis or life event that we're facing. And so I share that to say that people use music in different ways in medical context and community-based settings. We work with musicians. We train them at Berklee to tools to help run groups with older adults, to help with isolation, with youth, with peer recovery. But the music therapy, is a board-certified profession. Not, yes, you do have to be a musician. You have to go and study. And it's really that expertise in treatment planning, assessment, treat, and evaluate of, okay, here is the need right here. How am I going to co-create that music-based experience to help that individual or group address those particular outcomes?
So you're trying to conceptualize the person, their needs, and then utilize the tools and techniques.
Exactly. Exactly. And so music therapists work anywhere in medical settings. Boston Children's Hospital, I believe, has like 13 music therapists, Dana-Farber, Mass General, all of them. School-based settings with individuals with developmental health challenges, neurodivergent populations as well. They work in nursing homes, hospices, community-based settings, mental health settings, eating disorders, addictions. It's a lot, but what we do in each one is a little bit different. But what doesn't change is our toolbox of methods and techniques. But again, what the specialized use of music therapy is, we're literally learning, okay, in cancer care, here are some of the top issues that individuals face. Chronic pain. Okay, I know when I'm getting a referral for, pancreatic cancer, there's a lot of chronic pain issues. And so I'm helping a lot of times develop tools for the individual to use. Once they're out of crises, because you're only in the hospital if you're really having issues with pain management. But then how can I take what we've learned for when you go home so that you have a tool in your toolbox to use? So it's very targeted treatment planning. Same, I'll use Spalding Rehabilitation Hospital. A music therapist there are using a lot with gait improvement, speech communication. But if I'm at home and I want to exercise, I don't need the music therapist. I don't need that expertise. So I hope that kind of answered your question.
Yeah.
It's it's that spectrum, and I will say there's a massive shortage of music therapists. We need more music therapists. There's been a huge demand because of the research evidence. So the National Institutes of Health has shown the research evidence to show the database of evidence on the use of music for health-related outcomes. And it's non-invasive, and it's, as you said, all natural. But there's ways that we can be taking these simple methods and techniques to improve. I mean, we have plenty of open jobs in this area alone. I'm hiring right now as well, if anyone's out there at Berklee. But my whole point with that is that there's absolutely a shortage of music therapists. Now, some people, I'll use you, Jerry, as an example. You're a clinical psychologist. Do you use music in your practice? Yes, you do. You don't have to. Yes, right? You even said, choose a piece of music to listen to.
Yeah.
That is still valuable, right? So it's not this only music therapists can do this. It's thinking about that continuum. And, if you have a loved one who's really struggling where it's a different level of expertise. Just like a therapist, sometimes you want your best friend or a friend to talk to.
Right.
Sometimes you need someone with more expertise,
That's
right?
a great
It's
example.
that same kind of concept. So, definitely check out the Berklee's music therapy page for more information, but also check out the Music and Health Institute because it goes into some of that. But it also has a very large research repository that shows the research by different conditions.
I was just going to ask, is there different types of music that will benefit specific symptoms or diagnoses?
Well, I would say diagnoses per se, but I would say we know elements of the music that are needed to shift. So I know, for example, I'll use example with premature babies. We work over in NICUs here in Boston.
Tell us more.
Oh, yeah.
We know somebody in that exact situation right now, actually.
So we know from the research evidence that, when premature babies, regulation is a major issue.
Yeah.
Feeding is a major issue.
Yeah.
That feed-suck response. That's what rhythm does.
Wow.
Right? It's that feed-suck response. But it's also that bonding and mother-caregiver anxiety. So the research, so go back to your question in terms of specific type of music, it's elements of the music. So we know tempo slower to the natural heartbeat are important. We know for example, with neonates, we can't have large leaps in the melody line. It's too much. If you think about when you're overwhelmed and overstimulated, and you put on Beethoven's Ninth, that ain't going to be helpful, right? But that same kind of concept of how we use the elements of the music. I will give an easy example. Guess what type of music helps you focus the most? Any guesses?
Classical.
Nope.
Jazz?
I said that because that's what most
That can't
people
be
think.
jazz.
Actually, game scores.
Yeah.
And if you think about game scores, you think about the
It's all
music,
purposeful.
but it's consistent,
Yeah.
but it has enough little shift. So it's keeping your attention a little bit because it's just modulating, right? But it's consistent enough. And, if you think about in jazz can work to type of jazz. So it's not just, it's the type of how we use the elements that come into play. And that's where, how the rhythm, the pulse, the melody lines, the harmonies, and then the interconnected come into play. And it's not type of music per se, it's how we're using the elements of the music based on what it is that we need.
Yeah.
So
Very cool.
yeah. So check out the research, check out what we're doing there. And don't forget that, it's your superpower. There's always a way that you can use music to connect. So
Jerry, can you speak to the movie that we saw recently? I think it's just, for those of you out there who are interested in learning more, I think it's a beautiful depiction of music therapy in action.
It was the movie The Music Never Stops. And I think it's based on Oliver Sacks' case study.
yes, Oliver Sacks. Yes.
And it was just a beautiful movie of actually not just how music healed, it was how the music helped this person who had a brain trauma access his personality from the time when he listened to that music, where he didn't really have much of a personality after the brain injury. And there's kind of a whole relationship with his father that gets healed through the music, which is kind of how music is multifaceted. It's not just doing one thing. It kind of does a lot of things at once.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's that in what you just said, access, explore, create. New ways of being. So yeah.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Cool.
We're so grateful for you. Thank you for sharing your story, your work, your passion for
Definitely
music therapy.
passion.
Yeah. It's incredible. It's infectious.
Thanks.
And we can feel it. And
Thank
we're so
you.
grateful for the work that you do and for sharing a little bit of it today with us.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting something that's already there and emphasizing the importance. In some ways, we should be doing that with each other too.
Yes.
We're all here, we're existing, and as much as we emphasize the things that are already there, we can also emphasize we are here and appreciate each other as well and ourselves as much as we do with music.
So in our typical fashion, we like to end by just asking what's something you're hopeful for or grateful for as you move forward in your career and your life.
Wow. It's yesterday I found out that someone who is a second mom to me, who was actually my undergrad professor for music therapy, passed away.
Aw.
And one of the things, and she's a second mom, literally. And, and I think about my last conversation with her a couple weeks ago, and she was so much, she's like, Joy, you get it. It's not complicated. It's bring the music back. And she was talking about the Community Health Musician Certificate program that we started, and to ensure that every community and their music was elevated, right? That there's not just one type or one thing, but allow us to connect and learn and grow from one another through music. And even thinking this week with the World Cup and last week with the World Cup, look at the moments, the songs in the stadiums, the songs on the streets, the rhythms on the streets. Music allows us to be human. It allows us to meet someone where they are. So if I think about what I want or moving forward, it's that we would stop putting it something separate and start saying, you know what? Let me just go sing. Let me just go play. Let me just go share. And I will also share, because I just shared with y'all, I don't get to go to music enough because I am just as guilty of not taking the time. But when I do, it's exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
And so give yourself permission, everyone, to engage in music in some way, shape, or form. Yeah.
We're so sorry for your loss and so grateful for you sharing such a profound experience and moment of reflection on just music therapy and also and how it integrates into all of our lives. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for being you, Joy.
Hey, thanks. Only one way to be, right? Thanks, y'all.
Thanks for tuning in to the ReidConnect-Ed podcast. Please remember that this is a podcast intended to educate and share ideas, but it is not a substitute for professional care that may be beneficial to you at different points of your life. If you are in need of support, please contact your primary care physician, local hospital, educational institution, or support staff at your place of employment to seek out referrals for what may be most helpful for you. Ideas shared here have been shaped by many years of training, incredible mentors, research, theory, evidence-based practices, and our work with individuals over the years, but it's not intended to represent opinions of those we work with or who we are affiliated with. The ReidConnect-Ed podcast is hosted by siblings Alexis Reid and Dr. Gerald Reid. Original music is written and recorded by Gerald Reid. The recording was done by Cybersound Studios. If you want to follow along on this journey with us, the ReidConnect-Ed podcast will be releasing new episodes every 2 weeks each season. So please subscribe for updates and notifications. Feel free to also follow us on Instagram at ReidConnect-Ed podcast. That's ReidConnect-Ed podcast, and Twitter at ReidConnect-Ed. We are grateful for you joining us and look forward to future episodes. In the meanwhile, be curious, be open, and be well.